One of the most promising young artists we've ever met is seated over there at the piano this evening, Roslyn Frantz, a 14-year-old high school student of Portland. We're going to meet Roslyn in a few minutes, but her playing, well, that can speak for itself.
I'm 92. I've had quite a varied career. I would say my occupation is musician. It was wonderful because I had a title, music director. Frankly, I lost my job. They shut down. And I'm not the only person in the universe that happened to, but it just came as such a shock. I was not prepared for it. I didn't even think about it. And there it was. We had just finished a show, and it happened the next day. And that was shell shock. It took me several years to even get over that. What do I do with my time? I'm not, that's half my income, you know. And we become social people. And then suddenly to be shut up at home with nothing, very difficult. And I'm sure other people have had much more difficult times than I did. But as I get older, it's more difficult.
I started taking some voice lessons. And I think you know my teacher.
I was born in Portland, Oregon, United States. I am a dual citizen of the US and Canada. It was after the crash. It was 1929, 30. I was born in 31. Everyone was suffering. My father lost his job. Just the whole world was upside down at that point, not a bit unlike what it is now. But things were a lot different then. My mother was the youngest of 4 children, and somehow she inherited a grand piano. Evidently, I was fiddling around and picking out little tunes or something. I really don't remember. That would have been age 3. And the first thing I really kind of remember about it was I was standing with my back to an upright piano, and somebody was playing pitches, and I was naming them. At that time, it was called perfect pitch. Well, nothing's perfect, but it's or absolute pitch. It's pitch memory. There came a director for the school who was from Ukraine, and his name was Rubinstein. But he also had connections to what would be called, I think, United Artists, which were traveling musicians who gave concerts in various cities.
And there's something else we like to do.
Tell us about it.
We like to meet the artists who come to Portland. My teacher, Mr. Ariel Rubinstein, knows most of them and sometimes entertains informally for them after concerts. And of course, I'm thrilled when I'm invited.
Of course you are. And by the way, how does Mr. Rubinstein think you're coming along with your music, Roslyn?
All he ever says is, Roslyn, you've got to practice, practice, practice.
And you do?
I have to. You see, my goal is to play with the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, and it can't be done by wishing.
It certainly can't.
So he had all these friends, Artur Rubinstein, Vladimir Horowitz, and they were all of that generation. So every time they came to Portland, guess who got to meet them? Listen to my little child prodigy, which I wasn't, but he wanted me to be, and my parents fortunately said, no, it's no life to be exploited and be something famous when you're 6. It'll probably be over by the time you're 10. At least that's what I make of it now. I remember vividly learning the orchestra accompaniment for one of the other students, for instance. But already that was learning to play ensemble with somebody else. And I think that's the greatest gift of it all, because just being a soloist for some is satisfying, but I have made a career of working with other people, and it's been very rich.
You know, neighbors, when I last saw her, she was about, so high.
Well, we all have to grow up, Mr. Kirkham.
But by golly, you don't have to do it while I'm not looking. Seems like only a couple of years ago, your dad and I were students down at Oregon State College.
You had a lot of fun there, too, didn't you?
Roslyn, on the counter, let me ask the question. For instance, we all want to know how long you've been taking piano lessons.
10 years.
You mean you started when you were 4?
Just about 4.5. The family sent me to the musical kindergarten at Ellison High. Since then, I've been taking private piano lessons. And of course, I'm still in school at Catlin.
Next to music, what studies interest you most, Roslyn?
Science and nature studies, and especially languages.
There was a competition for a young artist, and in this case it was a piano competition, to become the soloist with the Portland Junior Symphony. And I won the competition when I was 11, and when I was 12, I played a concerto with the Portland Junior Symphony. And that, I guess, is my first big event. I was scared to death. But I did it. And I played a Mozart Concerto number 21, C major.
Thank you, Roslyn. That was grand. I'm sure that if you follow Mr. Rubinstein's advice, you will play with the New York Philharmonic.
About when I graduated from university, or college it was called, which was in 1952, I met Gregory Millar, with whom I have 4 children.
One of my most constant memories of being with my mom. She and my dad were often working quite a bit, away, wherever they were doing. When she was home and practicing for a concert, she would say, "I'm practicing. Find something to do. Don't bother me." And I would let her go and I would hear her start and I might find something to do for a little while and then I'd get bored and I just wanted to be near her. So I would crawl on my hands and knees and down the hallway quietly and then through the office quietly and then slowly behind the curtains, and I would drift in behind the chair and underneath the piano, and then I would just lay down and listen. And that was just a wonderful place to be.
I was in New York. My husband then had just been appointed an assistant conductor to the New York Philharmonic with Leonard Bernstein, and West Side Story, Bernstein's famous musical, closed on Broadway, so it was allowed to tour. So Gregory, my husband, took it on tour in the summer of 1960. And we went to what was called summer stock in the States, which are the summer music festivals. And it was all in the East. I think we were in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. That's probably as far west as we got. And we might have been on the Sound back there where the Kennedys lived. I can't remember what it's called. And it was a long time ago. But I suddenly realized I was part of that because I was the sub-keyboard. So wherever we went, there was a regular keyboard player, but he had to go back and do other things in New York, and so then I got to play it. And that was my claim to fame with West Side Story, and I've loved it ever since.
She's very intuitive. She's impulsive, but always to great benefit for herself and everyone. So it was no surprise that when she called me up, I think I was in Tucson at the time. I really wasn't doing much. I was maybe 19 or 20, and she called and said, "Oh, we're up in Canada. You'll never guess what we did this morning." I was like, "What, Mom?" "Well, we went camping in this lovely little town called West Bank, and we got up this morning and bought a house. We're moving to Canada." Who does that?
I've lived in Kelowna since 1981. It was a small town. There was a bridge, but it was a lift bridge. And West Bank was just starting to flourish. That happened with my second husband, Eddie Haug, who was an orchestra player from the San Francisco Symphony and Opera. Oddly enough, I met Gregory and Eddie on the same day, way back when I was in Mills College. So again, I was with someone who was involved in that kind of music, which was playing with other people, and Eddie was a very fine trumpet player. And so we landed, and the conductor here, Leonard Camplin, picked us up right away. We were in the Okanagan Symphony overnight.
She came here technically to semi-retire with her husband Eddie, but they had met the symphony conductor who happened to know my dad from years before. And because of their stature, both Roz and Eddie, playing with the San Francisco Symphony and San Francisco Opera, were quickly absorbed by the Okanagan Symphony. And that was about it. It was a very small symphony, and I was used to so much more, but I would go to the concerts, and they were the stars of this. They were just celebrated for their experience and wealth of knowledge and repertoire. So quickly the quality of the music with the symphony came up. Leonard loved to feature both of them. Eddie was an amazing trumpet player, so he picked pieces that were, you know, Bach and things that were going to help him shine, and he utilized Roslyn as a soloist repeatedly.
My career just kind of morphed into the next stage. And then I started doing a lot of teaching, and I worked through the music schools, Penticton, Kelowna, Vernon, before the highway, and my kids were grown. So my life was totally music from the minute I got here. I really don't know anything else.
But as Kelowna grew, so did her presence in creating a piano duo that she did in the 80s, Rosdahl duo. 2 people at one bench on one piano, so 4 hands, which was always really dramatic and wonderful to see. And then she started bringing in ideas for theater and opera, and this is really where the art scene began in the early 90s. She was pivotal in creating opportunity for students to perform. So Viva Musica was that. It was a place to bring opera and Broadway style musical theater to the stage to give her students somewhere to sing and play.
There's a very strong music and arts community now. But when I was trying to put on opera in the early 90s, it wasn't working because there wasn't enough of an audience. People who really loved opera, maybe musical theater, but not opera.
Because the crowds just there was no interest. And of course, Kelowna was a town of 42,000 people at that time. So arts and farmers, I don't know, orchardists.
It's all about education. This was a farm community. You know, nothing against that. It's been wonderful. Look what it's produced, grapes. But it wasn't making an audience for what I wanted to do at that point. So then you just branch out and do something else in the music or arts business.
To see the symphony had really become a much bigger concern. I think population helped, and people coming from other metro centers to bring that arts and culture. And she saw that there was that appetite, and so she was filling these needs in a variety of projects. Again, her own playing, trios, duos, quartets. She was gigging in, I want to say 98, 99, she thought, I'll take up the harp. And in 6 months, she was teaching the harp. Constantly enriching the arts community and always spearheading some project. And it wasn't just in Kelowna. She was a part of Okanagan College in Vernon, also the Vernon Community Music School. She had students in Penticton. When she bought a house in Peachland, I helped her turn it into a music studio so that she could meet students from Penticton halfway, which was a brilliant thing.
I first met Roz over 20 years ago. I had just moved to the Okanagan from the Vancouver area. And my first impression of Roz, I was little intimidated by her personality and her strength. And she was working with Neil Facey with the group Viva Musica. And I was hired as one of the band members to play in the band. That's what we did back then. We had live musicians. It wasn't just background tracks. And it was such a fun hub of like all these musicians that just revered Roz. She was music director. And that was our first time playing on a stage together for Viva
When we
Musica's
did
West Side
Viva
Story.
Musica did West Side Story.
Because it needed 2 pianists, and I got to play beside Roz and just fascinated by, we were on a truck on the stage that they built the set so the band could be not in the wings, not in the pit, not behind the stage, but on stage as part of the decor. We were in this old broken down truck, the whole band. And most of the teachers that I knew that were, in the older age bracket, they stopped performing. And Roz was, at that time, one of the only ones who was in a senior age that was still playing and playing well.
I met Roz when I was 12 years old at the Kelowna Waldorf School. She was there with a gentleman who was a voice teacher at the time, and my mom was also there, and my mom ran over to Roz and said, "Roz, you have to meet my son in here and play the piano. I think he'll be a great pianist." She said, "Okay." So they sat me down and forced me to play in front of this person that I had no idea who she was. And Roz was, I guess, somewhat impressed, although she never really says anything. And I guess at that time she accepted me as a piano student. And so she's been my musical inspiration for 28 years. One of my favorite things, so I've played, I think, 6 or 7 concertos, and I always choose piano concertos that Roz already knows, because it's way more fun that way, and then she can help me with it. And I've chosen pieces that I'll learn a little bit of, and then I come to Roz and we try it out together. And she's so quick to fix things that I've done wrong. Both, like, even if I learn a wrong note, she knows instantly. Like, she doesn't even need to read it, she just knows, because she knows the pieces so well. And she's very quick to yell at me about what I'm doing wrong, which is great, because she knows that I don't take it personally. So we have a lot of fun just playing together, but I always feel so terrible about, like, I suffer from being ashamed of my lack of ability because it's nowhere near hers. And she always says, "Don't worry about that, it's fine, you'll get it." And she raves about my natural technique, which I don't believe I have, but she does. And I rave about her ear and how pitch perfect she is, and that drives me nuts. But we have so much fun playing together because we help each other. And she's so honest and open about how to make me better at whatever I'm learning. And that's one of my favorite things, is bringing a new piece that is a mess that we just destroy the first time through. But we love it, we have fun, and we laugh about it, and it slowly gets better. And after 3 days of playing it, then we let people come in and listen to it.
At first, years and years and years ago, she had approached me, actually, because she would ask for me to be a rehearsal pianist, and she wanted to work with me, and that was great to have the work. And she asked me if I would play piano duos with her. And I remember looking at the music and thinking, oh my gosh, this music is so hard. I would have to practice it. Oh, I don't have time. I had, 5 ridiculous jobs at the time or something silly, and just the pressure of it and wanting to, I remember that feeling, just wanting to, I didn't want to disappoint her. I thought, oh, I'm not good enough for this. And I said no.
Roz there's a lot of things that make her brilliant. I think her technical ability in her playing is one thing. There's a lot of people that can technically play very well. She technically plays very well. Where the syncopations are, she knows what the harmonies are. She knows how to do the hand movements and where to lift, and because she studied all of it. So she knows, not just from the technical side, but a deep understanding of the repertoire itself. She had teachers of her own that led her all through that. And she loves it. And I think that's the third thing is she has the technical parts and she has a knowledge of the repertoire, but she has the emotional maturity to bring that music to life in a very deep and meaningful way. And a lot of really good pianists don't have that. And I think when I started studying with her, I recognized that in her immediately, and she recognized my passion for that same kind of emotion, and that's what allows us to play so well together.
And then we were doing a reunion concert for CAS, for Kelowna Actors Studio, and I hadn't seen her in a long time. I hadn't worked with her, and we had a little bit more of a time to have heart-to-heart discussion, a little bit more actual, like, who are we and what are we challenged by now? What's happening in our current lives? And then when she asked me to come and play with her, it was like, yes, of course, yes. And I was still intimidated by the high level of the music that she wanted to play. But yeah, this inferiority part of it kind of just washed away.
Whole concert grand, it's called a B.
Okay.
It's the best.
What? Not as long as but it's a Steinway.
That's a Steinway.
She feels amazing.
And I bought it in Vancouver. When my father died, he left me a little bit of insurance, and I thought, what do I want to do with it? I really want a good grant. So I've had it since, when, Heidi?
Oh, well, I didn't know you then, but I think you've had it in... She recognized in me more of a talent than I ever even realized in myself.
Roslyn came on board as our resident musical director in 2010. She was looking for work. I met her and thought she was a good fit for Actors Studio. She invited me to this little party soiree at New Year's. I got to sing, and our relationship just blossomed from that time forward. I think her first show, Sweeney Todd, she expected a lot of work, and she worked them hard. And just because she was an older musical director, I think a lot of the cast didn't realize that, and she demanded perfection. But she has a real soft side as well, but I think that's why we get along so well, is I expect a lot and work very, very hard to pull out the talent. And I've seen unbelievable talent blossom because of her musical direction. And when we had the full-time academy, she would teach theory, she would teach voice for us. I mean, she is really a diamond for Kelowna Actors Studio, and, you know, a blessing for all of the Okanagan.
When she was with Kelowna Actors Studio, a 10-year run there, bringing up the level of talent, as director, directing fabulous shows, and the quality was what she'd always dreamed of, I think, with a dinner theater of that scale and that success was just fulfilling her. Plus having students of all ages, from young children through mature adults. There's a funny thing here. If you don't know Roz, you know of her. So she's an icon and a legend, and she downplays her participation. You can't. Fingerprints everywhere.
Her knowledge of musical theater, music, theater in general is outstanding. She has the strongest work ethic of a lot of people I have worked with, and she works a lot with me as the artistic director when I was directing to bring out the best in every person she works with.
And you know, there were some mishaps, they always happen, but you just make the most of them. And there was one point at which the whole soundboard went down, and then it started again, but without any guidance, and the girl, the operator, did it all from memory, all the cues for the rest of the show. I mean, stuff like that, which to me is amazing. I would never be able to do that in my life. So, you know, some really brilliant people who have, you know, been able to get this kind of training. And I feel like I went through training for those 10 years. I'd never been so involved in shows and all the technical aspects of them as well. We just take it for granted. Oh, doesn't it look pretty? Oh, the costume's nice. But all the work that goes into making that all look and sound the way it does is what's important. I mean, the music is the least part of it sometimes. So that's what I've learned. I'm still glad I do what I do, but I learned a lot. No, this is funny, but it's true, and I've done this many times in my life. It goes like that, and then it doesn't lie down.
Oh,
And then the pianist is sitting here going, while you're playing.
The first week I moved to Kelowna, I got involved with a theater company here, and she was the music director there. And so instantly we started working together in that capacity. And shortly after, we both realized that our passion was classical music. And for me, growing up in a small town, I'd never really met anyone who had the same passion as I did. And I think we just started to speak the same language. We worked together on many more shows, but we also started to coach privately, and she became a vocal coach of mine for many years. Tried her best to teach me piano and music theory, and I wasn't the easiest student, but she still worked hard on me.
She helped make me a stronger woman, not just by demonstrating the strength that she had, but asking me challenging questions or asking me loving questions, asking me any questions, just how I felt about where I was in my life, what I was doing with my life. And I know that she has this impact on many people just by being curious and being supportive of people.
In all of my years of knowing Roz, I've seen her work with so many people in the community, whether they're young or they're more mature. She has left such an impact on so many people because what she does is she allows people to find what's already in them. In a musical sense, in a confident sense, she has a way of being able to see someone in a completely judgment-free space and just bring out things that they didn't realize were there. And she just has a way of seeing someone. And that is such a unique thing to have. You work with a lot of coaches, and you get to understand a lot of different ways that people teach, or different types of mentors. But I've never worked with a mentor that has been so holistic. She gets to understand the person, right? She understands their wants, their insecurities, the things that maybe they need a little bit more of in order to feel more capable. It's a constant journey moving forward. Obviously, music is a core element of who Roz is, and it's a core element of our relationship together. But I also just want to recognize the amount of integrity that she has as well. I think that's something else that has really made an impact on me, and I think that was a big part of how we connected earlier on as well. I think that she, from the very beginning, has been such a champion for me, and really a champion for so many people.
When we first started doing performances in her condo, we would open it up to, however many could fit in that little place. The amount of people who were interested and who would come, and singers primarily, but lots of instrumentalists as well, would come and have these, with these little house parties. And and then COVID hit and shut everything down, everybody and everything. And for Roz at that time, who was and is such a social being, it was a very dark time. It was a very dark time. And she was afraid to have anybody come in. And so everything kind of just stopped and shut down.
The pandemic was extremely difficult on us and all the arts community. It's the kids and the parents that kept us alive because we were still doing classes for most of the time during COVID. It's unfortunate for Roz that, that kind of changed the landscape of how theater groups work, and being challenged to go out and scared to, get ill. And that's a thing we have to worry about and be careful of course.
For Roz, it took away her primary purpose, which, shutting a theater down where she was a vital part, still directing 2 shows a year and working with all the multi-talented people in that realm, to then have to go home. Just killed a lot of energy, I think. It took a lot of energy out of her because she didn't know what to do with herself all of a sudden.
I lost my job. They shut down. And I'm not the only person in the universe that happened to, but it just came as such a shock. I was not prepared for it. I didn't even think about it. And there it was. We had just finished a show, and it happened the next day. And that was shell shock. It took me several years to even get over that. What do I do with my time? I'm not, that's half my income, and we become social people. And we're dependent on that part of it. And then suddenly to be shut up at home with nothing, very difficult. And I'm sure other people have had much more difficult times than I did. But as I get older, it's more difficult.
She was creative in creating what she called the pandemic parlor. She has a single car garage, and then there's 2 steps up to the back door of the hallway that goes into the townhouse. She would open that door and people would arrive through the garage door, and she would sit up on the stoop on a chair, and people would be down at the table in the garage that she had set up, and then they could visit.
Well, nobody was supposed to be near anybody. One day, I just said, okay, the pandemic parlor is my garage. And you could keep the door open, you see, the garage door, and people could come in and sit 12 feet away from you, and it just kind of happened. And it worked really well for a while. So at least a little social could go on.
It was quite a big hit. People could come and there'd be chairs and people would bring their own drinks, and she would have her own drinks sitting up in the ledge. And I think once I'm remembering bringing my keyboard and some friends, and my brother was one of them who plays viola, and we came outside that garage. We set up everything. We did a little impromptu little concert. And
then she would play some music, and then I set up a camera, my phone, and then remoted to the TV that I set up in the parlor so that people could watch her play from the other room and hear that. That kept her going quite a bit. And then she had a friend rig up a situation where there was a barrier in the hallway that was plastic that she could still work with singers. So she could be on the other side playing, and that person could be just by the garage and do their vocal training. And so she was creative in making it work.
Where Roz and I really started to understand a sense of our purpose in each other's lives was during the pandemic, because I remember at that point in time, we'd already been in lockdown for many months, and she kind of stayed in her home, and I really walked away from music for quite a long time at that point. And we both decided one day to connect. And she said, just bring some music over. I miss you. I want to see you. Let's play some stuff. And I remember we did that. And I think that first day we played music for it must have been over 3 hours, just exploring pieces that we did back in the day, exploring new pieces that we just wanted to try out and see how they sounded. And it was like, for the first time in such a long time, that I felt like a musician again. And it's funny because, for a musician, that's such a big part of your identity. And she understands that, and I understood that, and to be able to feel like that side of ourselves had woken up again, it was almost like waking up from a sleep that we'd been in for such a long time. So from that day on, we made the commitment to each other that once a week I'd go over to her house, I'd bring my big bag of music, and we'd just go at it. We'd sing whatever we felt like. There would be no goal. There would be nothing we had to do. It was just on the day, whatever we felt like, we'd just play around with. What Roz did for me is she reminded me who I am, and she gave me a place to be that.
I missed you so much. Sorry.
When we play music together,
Isn't that gorgeous?
we're communicating kind of the language of our souls. And I have no other person in my life that I connect with on that level. And it is so valuable to me. It's the sweetest part of my life.
I'm excited to do it. I have to deal with my own problems separately. The brain, it does the things that you don't want it to do a lot of the time. And if something isn't quite right, you tend to dwell on it, and it makes it worse. So it's my choice and it's my problem. And I will make it work for all of us.
Maybe people don't understand how hard this is going to be for her. And maybe do they know? But all the people that are involved in her life, most people get it. But do they really get it? Do they understand? Because they're coming in and they're watching her perform in her house. And it's amazing. That's amazing right there. But they don't really see her having to get out of that house, get into a car, and all of that, and what that entails, let alone going into a different space.
Very difficult. Because I'm not mobile on my feet. And I have to have the right height piano bench, which usually means 5 pillows. I've lost 5 inches in height. So I look forward to that, and we will get a big audience at the RCA. And we're already planning repertoire. And look what I found. West Side Story, 2 pianos. We're going to do some excerpts from this.
This live performance at Mary Irwin Theatre, I still can't really believe that she agreed to do it. And the thing that's so crazy is, had it happened before COVID, I probably would have been, oh yeah, like, yeah, that's gonna, sure, no problem at all. But like I say, COVID changed a lot of people. The idea there and the agreement of, oh yeah, no, Roz said, yeah, no, she's gonna do it. I'm like, okay, all right.
Now we have our trio.
We're here, we're here.
And did you bring your birds?
I brought my birds. Got the birds, got the music. Yeah.
Amazing. We're in the presence of a composer.
Well, we haven't done it yet.
Oh, well.
We'll wait till see how it goes, see how it's received.
Okay,
Well, we'll have to do that.
Yes. How are you? You look wonderful.
Thank you. I'm here. What shall we do first now?
I want to get into
wanna
your
play?
piece. Yes.
You don't want to have a drink first?
After, maybe.
Yeah.
For me, I can't tell if it makes me better if I have a drink before or drink after.
Both.
Okay. Well, let's play something.
Let's play some music.
Okay. We want to do Bach? You want to do Birds? Do you
Sure.
wanna do which
Yeah.
one?
I honestly think if I hadn't known Roz, I doubt very much that I would be playing any piano at all. I think she's 100% of the reason that I still play. And I think she knows how much of an inspiration she is. Very intimate, but very relaxed.
That's certainly going to relax me more.
Yeah, me too.
Because I said I would never perform on a stage again.
Thank
It's
you
all
so
your
much.
fault. The more relaxed it is, the easier it's going to be for all of us.
Yeah.
And the audience.
We do the strum bit.
Dirty, aren't they?
Yeah, this is just a,
Nathan Damon, how are you?
For example, this. Thank you. Good yourself?
And make this endless day, endless night, tonight.
As it's happening, when it's happening, and we're there. Okay, she's in the building. Okay, all right. Okay, now on the stage. Okay, all right. And then I'm thinking, oh, I know that it wouldn't matter to anybody else really what kind of a bench you sit on. You'd figure it out. You'd adjust your legs and you'd move, and you would just deal with whatever that height was. But when you're already in pain and you're immobile most of the time, every little millimeter makes a difference. And that's going to affect the next 2 hours of playing. And things like this and all the items we brought to try to make it work, it was just the business of it. The people that are watching later after the fact, do they have any idea who she is and what she's put into this talent? And do they really know that it's not so easy? Because she makes it look effortless.
I think that you reach a point where there's a certain amount of pressure that you put on yourself, and you think, you know, people have these expectations of me, I have these expectations of myself. What if I go up there and I just, you know, maybe I don't have it, or maybe, you know, you talk yourself out of things, and I understand how easy that is to do. So I felt seeing Roz get up on that stage was such a victory. It was as though she just slipped right into who she is in her purest sense. It was as though it was just her soul doing what it was put on this planet to do. And I'm just so happy I was there to see it. It was magic.
This is a huge counting challenge too. It's not the easiest piece to play. In fact, I've written the following time signatures are in this piece. There's 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/8, 7/8, 9/8, and 12/8. When I was probably about 10 or 11, I really wanted to start piano. That seemed to be the instrument that resonated the most with me. I loved classical music. It was strange because, I mean, I grew up listening to, I guess, CBC on the radio and listening to my mom play, but I was really drawn to the Romantics and the French, the Chopin and Rachmaninoff, and when I heard that music, all I wanted to do was learn to play that. The most inspirational for me was classical music. That's what I loved, that's what inspired me, and that's what I wanted to do. So of course, once I met Roz and started studying with her, that's the direction that I mostly went in.
Lucky me, with Gregory, we went on tour with West Side Story the summer of 1960. And I will never forget that wonderful experience. Just something quiet for finish. This is supposed to be an encore, I guess, or something. I don't know.
The performance was a great example of just a reflection of everything that she's given. People came out to see her perform, and as one person told us the other day on the phone, it was hard for him to explain. He said, I was so inspired because not only am I not sure I'll even get to that age, but to do something proficiently at that age, that was amazing. I think everybody felt that and probably left thinking, wow, what can I do? What can I focus on? What can I bring and give? It was so wonderful. As she came from the green room, it must have taken her an hour to get to the reception because people were stopping her all along the way, and almost everyone stayed of the audience for the reception, which says a lot as well. And it reignited a lot of, or reconnected her with a lot of people she hadn't seen, and I think the phone rings a lot more. What did Roslyn Frantz live do? I think it gave her a boost of energy and connection with her public and her community. She didn't want to do it, and she grumbled all the way and then had a blast. that was great.
Roz, you are a true treasure, and I'm very lucky to have you in my life, as well as many, many other people. And I know you're going to go strong, you're going to keep playing the piano, and I truly love you. I think you're amazing.
You and I are soulmates in such a deeply beautiful way, and you've changed my life in such a beautiful way. You've given me such a deep level of confidence in myself, in my musicianship, in my resilience, and I'm just so excited for the art that we're going to continue to create.
Thank you for everything that you've done for me in my life. And also, in addition to, thank you for everything you do with playing with me. I feel like the life part is in front of the playing part. Thank you for that. Love you.
I hope I made it enough obvious that I care about the people that I've worked with and that they're the ones that are important, not me. I don't know if I did that because I'm feeling, you know, under the microscope right now. What do you guys have to say? Anything?
Let's have some shots.
What?
Let's have some shots. Let's party.
Okay, let's get it.